Right then.
Okay.
Hello, Alison. You alright?
Hi, Chris.
Hi all. Chris Rescue Clean was file course again. I've got with me today Alison Driver from Metis HR. I've had a number of questions from subscribers.
Yeah.
Related to things like all things HR, small business owners, etc. And we just thought we'd go through a few bits one-to-one sort of thing.
No problem. Yes.
So, Alison, Metis HR.
Yeah.
Yeah. What made you get into that, and how did you get started?
So way back, so we're talking 40 years ago, I did a degree in hospitality training. So I started my working life managing cleaning and catering staff in the NHS.
Right.
So at 24, I was managing 105 cleaning staff, unionised environment in a hospital and the health centres in Rosendale. So I learnt, it's almost like you do your degree and then you start learning real life. And I find managing cleaning staff, I mean, you and your subscribers will appreciate, I'm sure, not many people would leave school saying, I want to be a cleaner.
No, it's not the top of everybody's shopping list, is it?
So some managing cleaning staff, it was a really good education because people are doing cleaning jobs often because the time fits around their commitments, they're doing it for extra cash. So sometimes you manage cleaning staff a little differently than you would other professionally qualified staff. So that's where I cut my teeth. Fast forward to 13 years ago, I was made redundant. I was in a charity, I was Director of Corporate Services, so I've managed HR and managed people all my working life. Got made redundant and couldn't find anything that I really wanted to do. So I thought, I'll do it for myself.
Why not?
So I didn't want to be Alison Driver HR, so I was thinking of a name, and Metis is the Greek goddess for wisdom and good counsel, and I thought that's what I want to give to my clients. So that's the name. We're based in Rosendale because I live in Rosendale. We have clients all over England, Scotland. Don't think we've got any in Wales at the minute, so maybe that's the expansion. Yeah.
Yeah, no, excellent. No, so obviously, for those new to the channel, obviously my background is exterior cleaning. We came across each other. I'm not going to sort of go too much into the detail of the story just yet. Might give the game away a little bit, but full disclosure, Alison is effectively we subscribe to Metis HR to manage all of our employee contracts, etc. They've given us sage advice, which has ultimately saved us money.
Good.
And heartache and headache.
But that's what we want to try and do. I mean, almost like put it on our shoulders.
Yeah.
We'll take the weight off because we deal with these things day in, day out, and it allows you to get on and manage your business. So, we hope that clients will ring us before they do things.
Yeah.
But they don't always. It's digging out of a hole.
So, small business owners.
Yeah.
I run a small business. A lot of people, so for example, a couple of subscribers have asked, I only run a small business. I've only got 1 or 2 staff. Is it really important? Is it really necessary to sort of have to have a formal structure in place to look after that?
Contracts, so the law says from day one of employment, employers must give employees contracts of employment. So if you're not giving employees a contract, you're already breaking the law. Now, they can't take a claim against you just for doing that, but if they were to take it to tribunal, that'll be an added claim, and the maximum fine for that's £1,400. So need to have a contract because the law says you need to have a contract. But let's just think about what a contract is. It's an agreement. It says, we'll do this, you'll do that, and it's an opportunity for you to set out the rules, what we expect of people in the workplace, things like even how do they notify absence? They don't just disappear and go dark.
No.
They actually contact us. Do we want them to text us, or do we want them to ring us? Because then they have to be genuinely ill. It's very easy if you're under the duvet to just text, Chris, I can't come in today. Whereas if I make you phone you, it's a bit difficult. You've got to put your sick voice on. So it's about setting out the rules of engagement at the start. Employees then can't say that they didn't know what was expected of them. So it makes it much easier to manage when people are not working in the way that you would. Makes it much easier. But the worst case scenario, it only takes one employee to make a claim against you.
Yeah.
So I have on my email footer, when you employ staff, they get 91 rights, 73 day one, 14 before you've employed them, and 3 after you've got shut of them. So it's a scary area, and there's a lot of money at stake if you get it wrong.
The number of people I've spoken to as part of, obviously, the channel and business in general, business owners, even on a day-to-day basis, sort of seem to want to get to a point where they have enough work and sort of go, they sort of stop short of expanding their company or business because taking staff on is the added headache. And it staggers me that people can let that hold them back when there are people such as yourself prepared to sort of step in, you know, bridge the gap, if you like. Because when all said and done, small business owners might be experts in what they do in their little train set. They might be experts within that little train set, but anything that accompanies that, bolt-ons to that, things like tax, HR, accountancy, all this sort of stuff, tends to sort of become secondary, and they see it as the big boys only taking this on.
I mean, I run my own business, and I think for me the hardest decision was the first employee, because that's a big step. Once you've got one, the others, it's a bit like having kids. I think the first one is really, really hard work, but the second, you know how it all works. So I think that you do have to think about it, because it is a big step and it brings headaches, but it means that you get some sleep. You know, you don't have, everything doesn't fall on you.
Absolutely.
So if you want to expand, you have to use other people to do it.
So another question, another point from our subscribers was, you know, why use HR? Why use your good selves rather than a solicitor?
All right. So we both deal with employment law. Solicitor, very experienced in the law and all the clauses in the law, and potentially going to tribunal, helping you defend you. I've never come across a solicitor that at the age of 24 I was managing 105 cleaning staff. What I bring to this is my knowledge of the law, but the practicalities. So I can't count how many times I've been asked to tell somebody they smell, for example, and there's different ways of doing it. Some work, some don't. How many times has a solicitor told an employee that they smell? So what you get from us is practicality. This is how we approach it. And I was dealing yesterday with a client who was worried about talking to an employee who's got some mental health issues, but he's not doing the job. And she was able to, we spent half an hour, she was able to say, if they say this, what do I do? What do I say? And it's that reassurance that we've done it. I've tread the place that you're in now, and it's, a solicitor isn't for that. A solicitor is for making sure that the law is being followed, and if you've got breaches, they'll help you. I don't go to tribunal. I've got legal colleagues that would go to tribunal, because they're dealing with the intricacies of the law. I deal with the intricacies of the employment relationship.
No, I like that. But it's a good point as well. Is often the case is when a solicitor gets involved, too late, there's already a problem.
Yes.
So it's almost like, for me, certainly, I know for a fact if I've ever got a question, query, drama, etc., I can always sort of pick the phone up and go, Alison, help!
Yes.
You know, in my most manly voice.
Of course.
You know, but the joking aside is that you can ultimately, if you foresee a problem with staff coming, then you can sort of step in there and sort of, you know, before it becomes a massive problem where the solicitors ultimately are the only ones that win.
Yes.
So, but quick stories, obviously, for those not initiated, not watched the channel before, reason me and Alison sort of became involved was because a member of my staff, and I did have an employment contract drawn up and all that sort of good stuff. However, the young lad caused damage to my van, amounting to around about £4,500 worth of damage, and all I wanted was the employee to pay the excess on the insurance, which is 350 quid. And I was promptly pointed out to me that ultimately, if it's not in the contract, you haven't got a leg to stand on. Can you just sort of put a bit more meat on the bones of that?
Yes, so what we would include, it will be in your contract, but anywhere where we're using vehicles, It's the concept of negligence. We've all got insurance that covers us, but the excess starts to bite it the more and more things that happen. So we include clauses that say while you're driving the vehicle, you've got to look after it, make sure it's okay, report any incidents. But where they have caused damage, first of all, they need to know that they're expected to pay for the excess, but you need a deductions clause in your contract that allows you to take it out of the salary as a lawful deduction. If you don't have a deduction clause and you take money at the salary, you're going straight to tribunal and you'll lose.
I've always operated my business on the premise that it's big boys rules. If you break it, you fix it.
Yeah.
Very sadly, the real world does not work like that, does it? So I've also had another question from one of the subscribers asking about Acast, and they offer free advice to both employers and employees. Why not use them?
Okay. Have you ever rung Acast for advice?
I can't say that I've had the pleasure.
All right. So the people that I speak to who ring Acast for advice, it's not advice in terms of a case. They'll tell you what the law says you can do and what procedures you would follow, but they're not going to look at a case that you've got and say, right, your risks in this are this, this and this. What you need to do to manage that is to do that, and then later on you can do this. It's free for a reason. They're not, their Acast's job is to try and resolve disputes and try to prevent people going to tribunals by settling. I don't mean stopping them taking cases.
Of course, yeah.
But they are not an advisory service that's going to give advice in your best interest.
Right.
They're going to, because if they were to advise and they got it wrong, what are you going to do? You're going to go back and try and make a claim on Acast. You told me that I could do this. I did that and look what happened.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Right, very contentious, but a bit of a bone of contention here.
Okay.
So I've had a subscriber, who shall remain nameless, sort of accuse, using, I can't stop a worker that's worked for me going working for someone else, starting their own business, etc., etc. You can't do that.
Okay.
What's your take on that?
Yes, you can. Would be the first part. It all comes down to what you write in your contract. And if you download, there's loads of contracts on the internet. Again, they're free for a reason. They're not tailored to what you want, but they're called post-termination conditions. As a business owner, you want to stop them stealing your staff, stop them stealing your clients, and go and working for a competitor. Essentially, that's what we're trying to do. So a contract of employment that the employee signs and agrees to says you can't do these things for a period of time.
Yeah.
Our contracts will also say at the end of the section, if you're getting another job, you must make these post-termination conditions, you must tell your new employer you've got these.
You must make it known, yeah.
Absolutely. So we have a document they knew up front that what the restrictions were, and they signed it and agreed to them. So when they start to poach your clients or go work for a competitor, you're able to send cease and desist letters that will actually say, excuse me, you've signed this document. If I've got damages because of what you've done, so you've stolen clients from me, potentially that's you starting to build the case against the employee. The problem with post-termination conditions, and I can see why your subscriber might think they're not worth the paper they're written on, that it's a very expensive process to enforce. So what we do is try to do as much upfront to stop that. So if somebody's resigning, the letter that they receive saying acknowledging receipt, we're reminding them of the post-termination conditions, we're reminding them of the contractual obligations. The minute we find out that they are doing something that they shouldn't be, cease and desist letters are going out. So it's not a dead straightforward process, but surely it's better to have some conditions in there already that flag up that what your staff can or can't do than nothing.
If you want peace of mind, have a big stick.
Yes, yes, and know how to use it, yeah.
Excellent. Well, so, I mean, how enforceable would you say these clauses are in a court of law? What is sort of the government's take on on these sort of restrictive covenants? Is it frowned upon? Is it going to give you a bad name, sort of thing?
They are standard clauses. They're not frowned upon at all. You're entitled to protect your business. There is a move next year. We don't know when, but we think that the government is going to reduce the length of time that you can restrict people. So up to, at the minute, if I want to say to you, you can't work for a competitor in this area, I might say for 12 months. What I can't do is stop you making a living.
No, of course
So
not.
I have to be reasonable. But what we believe is coming in is a restriction that would say 3 months.
Right.
Which I think is odd, because what we're advised to do at the minute is to tailor the post-termination clauses. So if you were a director of a business or a senior employee, you would want to restrict them for a lot longer than you would a member of your facilities team, for example. So we need to see the meat on the bones of what the government's trying to do. But the courts of law, our post-termination conditions, they were drawn up by a solicitor because the case law suggested it needs to be more robust. So we've imported them. So yes, absolutely they are enforceable. What courts don't like is when everybody's got exactly the same. You need to be able to say, I've give you, because you're a senior person, these, but you don't need that, or you've only got a smaller amount. So enforceable, yes. It costs, like any court case, it's going to cost you to enforce it. So it comes down to how much damage is the person doing and how much do you want to protect your business.
I think we're the best one in the world when we're looking at our level as small business owners, one-man bands, sole traders, people with limited companies that have perhaps got, very few in the way of sort of staff. The losses certainly are not massive in monetarily, but the loss to the business, the loss to the business owner can be catastrophic. And many a time, I'm sure you've been made aware of people that have sort of started out with good intentions and sort of fallen off the wagon because of one small hitch, and it's cost them everything. And I think, to be fair, where you're looking at restrictive clauses and stuff like that, I don't see it as being something that should be frowned upon, quite frankly. At the end of the day, you've gone to the effort, you've taken the risk to start your business. Starting a business, as you're aware, is a challenge at the best of times.
Absolutely.
When you have got people potentially wanting to sabotage you from the inside, I think it's incumbent on you to protect yourself, your family and your business by, if need be, carrying a big stick and sleeping at night. And that's the...
Oh, and what we do see we have 3 or 4 contract cleaning clients, and we do see this issue of cleaners will go and do the work, but they will talk, because they're in that premises, they will talk to the homeowner or the business owner, and because they can take cash, they can charge less, so sometimes they're undermining you without you knowing it, and you'll lose a client and you'll never know why, and potentially you'll find out that they've been stolen. So it's terms and conditions for both the client and the employee, because the client needs to know that they shouldn't poach also. No,
that's good. It's a good point. We've always had situations where people have gone to work for someone else and then thought, well, actually, I could start my own business. And because they've gotten in with that customer, like you say, with window cleaning particularly, you see the customer every 4 weeks on the dot. How are you doing, Mrs. Driver? Blah blah blah, all this sort of stuff. And well, you come on with me, I'll do you a deal and all this sort of stuff, and you will never know. Until you're driving past in your van and you see someone that used to be your employee servicing your previous customer. 2 and 2 usually adds up to 4, doesn't it?
So, or they're daft enough to put it on Facebook.
Or they're stupid enough
because that happens quite a lot. That's how we find out. Everybody's watching them, so then we've got the post, so then we've got the evidence, so then we can have a difficult conversation. So we have also in our contracts, there is this fidelity clause that says employment law is really ancient law. It goes back hundreds of years, so you wouldn't describe it to anybody these days as master-servant relationship, but essentially that's what it is. And we're entitled in employment law to have implied terms, which means if you're my employee, I should be able to trust you, have trust and confidence in you. So when you've gone stealing my clients, you've broken that trust, so it's a fair reason to dismiss people.
You're saying about how it's interesting when you're talking about sort of trust and employees. When you start a business, as I'm sure you know, it becomes, it's a big responsibility. There are people that ultimately eat and sleep and live their lives according to the money that they earn from the business that you run. And it's funny how I remember when I was growing up, I used to view business owners and people that entrepreneurs and all this sort of stuff as the problem, and as ultimately they were crooks.
Yeah.
The reality is, it's funny being sat on both sides of the table. When you sat on this side of the table being a business owner, all of a sudden it's like, well, actually, no, I've got risks. I've got, you know, my business fails. Yeah. You lose your job, you can go get another job. My business fails, I lose everything. Yeah. And so, you know, I think putting those securities in place, I think it should be a responsibility on business owners, small and large, to sort of take that on.
Particularly when you, in your line of work, where your employees are working geographically distant from you, you're putting your reputation of your business and you in the hands of somebody else. And that's a scary thing to do. So it's
potentially working alone as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so how are you as a business owner, how are you ensuring that they represent you in the way that you want to represent you? How are you training and what are you doing? But that concept of understanding that all these families that you are depending on you continuing to pay that person, that's where it can start to cloud your judgment. So all of our clients are nice people. Most of them get themselves into a mess because they don't do what needs doing when it needs doing, and it's because of that emotion. He's a nice guy. He's just got this going
one
on.
More chance.
Yes, and ultimately, it rarely improves. It usually is going to get worse and worse and worse. But that's not our decision. That's client's decision, and sometimes it goes on months and months. So 2 weeks ago, they'd been there 3 years. I need to get rid of them. Why now? They've been like this for 3 years. Why now? And something happens, and that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. But then what we've got to get over is exactly that. Why has it been all right for 3 years and you've not done anything?
What's caused you to go?
Yes, and where's your evidence that you've told them it was no good? So if you allow people without challenge to be late, to be taking time off work, you are reinforcing behaviour that then is going to work against you when you're trying to manage it. So emotion is very hard to build out of the employment relationship because we're human beings, but that's what gets us into a mess.
I've said all along is ultimately your actions towards other people is you're teaching these people what they can and can't get away with.
Absolutely, you're a role model, yeah.
And ultimately, if you don't act accordingly, like you say, document evidence. If you've got a problem with somebody, etc., you can then go back at a later date and say, well, course of events, you did this, you did that, you did the other.
Yes.
Change your ways or else.
Yeah.
And ultimately you have a decision to make at the end of the day, haven't you?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and what tribunals are bothered about is that you've done what you've done in the way that you've done it. So they want to know you followed their own procedures and you've followed Acast code. And if you haven't done that, you're going to really struggle to win a case. So right from day one, I think it's starting managing people appropriately. The first time you see, if your view is people shouldn't be using mobile phones during work, the first time you see somebody use a mobile phone, challenge it then. If you wait until they've used it 47 times, it gets harder for you. How do I now say something? So jump on it at the start nicely. You don't have to be nasty about it, but you have policies to back that up. You've got a handbook. It says don't use your mobile phone. You've got your mobile phone out, put it away. Oh, I've got an emergency, somebody's going to call me. Well, on that basis, so if you're in an office, they can ring the office number. So
I mean, you mentioned the handbook there. I think I found that particularly useful when again we had our contracts sort of drawn up for our employees, and you sent out our handbooks. Thank you for that. The handbooks are quite comprehensive. It's almost like this is the contract, this is what the terms are.
Yes.
And the handbook is almost like this is the policy document to say how we seek to enforce it. Yeah. And what actions on certain events.
Yes, it's a bit like the what and the how, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. So I mean, I found that particularly useful. And when you've got those two things together, there's very very little in the way of margin for error, isn't there?
Yes, and we've got 120 retained clients, and every one of those clients will have a different contract and different handbook because it's 120 different businesses. So your handbook will be different than the next person's because we've talked to you about what are the issues that you want to address in your business. Let's get it taped down now, and we review those as we go along because as your business grows, your view of things will change.
Absolutely.
And the more you have to deal with, it's like, right, I need that in, they're not doing that anymore. Enough.
Well, before we knock off the video, just sort of wanted to sort of give you the opportunity. We've had a bit of a chat, haven't we, about sort of subscribers benefiting from your services. If you just want to sort of tell your lovely subscriber base what offers, sell your wares, as
All
it
right,
were.
will do. So we're based in Rosendale and we run management workshops. So these are workshops that are based on our experiences and our advice to clients. So managers, supervisors, business owners come on those. They're held here. And there are all sorts of topics: managing sickness, absence, recruitment, discipline, grievance. Next week I'm doing grievance, bullying and harassment. But
workshops, you're not bullying anybody.
Yes, no, absolutely, because I do it very well and you wouldn't be able to get me, so it's okay. But what we're offering subscribers, if you would like to come on to one of those workshops, we'll give you a 10% reduction on the cost of attending the workshops. They're 3 hours, they're in the mornings. And the other thing that we discuss, because we have a retainer module, so that you're not left looking for advice. So if we do contracts without support, those contracts could be out of date tomorrow. So somebody like yourself comes on as a retainer. So we've talked about giving a 5% discount on the monthly fees for a retainer contract that's 2 years. So we'll do your contracts, your handbooks, help you with consultation, and then it's unlimited advice from people, myself and the team, all of whom have got many, many years of experience and grey hair that helps us advise on HR effectively. You're not dealing with a call centre, you're not ringing somebody up who's going to put you through to somebody else. You'll speak to the same person about your case.
Excellent, yeah. I mean, I'm too pretty to have grey hairs. On that rather contrived bombshell then, if you like the video, please like, share, subscribe, etc. And please, if you seek to sort of have, as few sleepless nights as you can, get in touch with Alison Driver. We'll leave a link in the description below to any of the services, etc. And also Alison's socials, etc.
Yes, thank you very much.
Keep on keeping on as usual. I'll see you in the next video.